with March Madness starting in about just an hour or so, I wanted to go through my favorite first round upsets as well as which possible of those first round upsets can end up making a Cinderella run. There's always one or two. Last year we had St. Peter's. Years before that, Loyola Chicago, UMBC had their first round upset, which it will be almost impossible to predict again. And so I just want to go through some of my favorites for the first round upsets and which one of those first round upsets can possibly end up making a Cinderella run. So without further ado, let's get into it. I will say I am super, super close to 100 subscribers still. It would mean the world if you subscribe. Please like the video. Comment your thoughts down below about stuff. Yeah. So a team that I have upsetting in the first round, but I don't see going further than that in terms of the round of 32, is going to be Louisiana. I believe they are a good matchup for Tennessee, and without Tennessee's Zakai Zeigler running the point for them, it kind of slows them down, hurts their offense, hurts their defense a lot. So I see Louisiana being a possible first-round upset. It's not one people are really talking about because Tennessee has been so good in the past, but it's one that I see them possibly winning, not really making a run with it, but be an upset pick. Another team that I have possibly getting an upset, not really seeing past the round of 32, is Furman. Furman and Virginia do play very, very similar styles of basketball in terms of playing slow pace, defense, run their offense throughout the entire shot clock, and find a good shot. But with the injury to Virginia's Vanderplas, it does slow down that offense quite a bit. And Furman has been playing great basketball over the past few weeks and the entire season. So I believe that the coaching of Tony Bennett can possibly take Virginia over the hump, but I see Furman possibly getting this first round upset with also the strength of the ACC being as weak as it was. An upset team I have possibly making a run would actually be Kent State. Indiana has struggled over the past few weeks, or last month really, leading into the March Madness tournament, but Kent State have been phenomenal. They play a great style of basketball. Sincere Carey is an absolute beast, just runs their offense, great scorer, great passer. I believe Kent State is a team that can make it possibly to the Sweet 16 just because of the right matchups. They play the winner of Miami and Drake, and Miami not being as strong, especially in March, but not being a strong team overall. That's a team that's very well as an upset to make into the Sweet 16. A possible 8-9 upset would be Auburn versus Iowa. Auburn is great in home games, and this game is just down the road in Birmingham, which is essentially a home game for them. Iowa's size could deal issues for Auburn, but Auburn does tend to play much better home than they are away, and this being relatively close to being a home game, I believe gives them that little bit of an edge. Now, personally, I'd still pick Iowa, but Auburn is a team to watch out for with it just being at home in general. Going on throughout the tournament, Houston is on possible upset alert. We don't know the health of Marcus Sasser, who's leading scorer, leading playmaker pretty much for them. We saw what it is like without him in the AAC championship, and they got blown out of the water. So they're on possible upset alert unless they get Marcus Sasser back and he's fully healthy and they're not actually rushing him back. I believe that they could sit him for the Thursday matchup versus North Kentucky because of how relatively easy of a matchup it will be. But who knows? Another team that I'm just not that high on is Kentucky this year, and Providence playing Kentucky in the first round. Bryce Hopkins wants to get his revenge on his old team after he played like crap for them, and Bryce Hopkins is playing at an elite level for Providence. Now, Providence is much weaker away than they are away at neutral site than they are at home, but I believe that just the storyline that the game it brings and the weakness Kentucky has had all season, that I'd take Providence over Kentucky. Now, my most interesting game for the entire tournament is going to be Duke and Oral Roberts. I believe that's just going to be a fun, fantastic matchup. Duke is finally healthy, and they're playing their best basketball of the entire season at the right time as well. Filipowski's been a beast. Jeremy Roach is finally healthy, which I believe is going to be a very fun matchup versus Max Amos and their 7'5" center, who also shoots a lot of threes, averages 3.3 blocks per game. It's going to be a fun matchup to watch. Oral Roberts is most people's upset pick, but it's just such a hard matchup to really pick. Going into that, it's Max Amos is one of the leading scorers in the entire country, and pair him with a guy who's 7'5". A lot of guys can't match that size, especially when he's a shooter as well. Now, further down the line, if it ends up being Purdue versus Oral Roberts for some odd reason, I'd be inclined to pick more towards Oral Roberts and just sheer scoring and somebody who can actually keep up with size. Now, he isn't as necessarily strong as Zach Edey would be, their center, but that means you have to bring Zach Edey out, and if you bring Zach Edey out of the paint, it opens up that paint a lot more for the rest of the scorers of the team. Now, obviously, Oral Roberts has to make it that far, but if it ends up getting to that point, I'd be more inclined to pick Oral Roberts than I would be for Purdue. The last thing I'm going to go over is going to be Charleston versus San Diego State. Now, San Diego State is a very defensive sound team. They have a very deep rotation. They get value out of 8 guys throughout their entire team. Charleston is very similar in the same way. They score from the 3 really, really well, but it's going to be a really, really tough matchup between the two. It's a favorite upset pick because Charleston has been so good all season, but it's another one of those with the 5-12 with Duke, same with Duke and Oral Roberts. It's just such a toss-up. We don't know where it's going to be. Now, in terms of overall champion, I do have Alabama. I think that the adversity they've gone through so far, the trends with national champions and KenPom ratings, which is like top 27 in offense and top 40 in defense, with 100% true for all national champions. And if you exclude the UConn run in about, I think it was 2014, if you exclude that UConn run, then it's like top 20 in each category pretty much. And they still fit into both those categories. They've gone through adversity throughout the season. Their offense is really, really potent. Their defense is really, really sound. So even if they have a bad offensive night, their defense more than makes up for it. In terms of the ACC, which is the conference that I know the best, if I was to pick any team to make a deep run out of any of the ACC teams, it would probably have to be Duke, just because of the style of basketball they're playing. They're the most in-form team. Pittsburgh, I don't really see them making it past the first round. Miami, they're not as strong of a team as everybody thinks they are. They're just kind of... Isaiah Wong being the ACC Player of the Year is not shocking to me, but he also just doesn't stand out at all. His teammates do way more of the work than he does. He just happens to be the name that people know. I believe Nigel Pack is just as important. Norchad Omier is just as important to the team. No one on that team really stands out on the stat sheet. Now, if you want another possible upset pick throughout the bracket, not necessarily in the first round, it's going to be Creighton. I believe Creighton have such a good team. They're possible national championship contenders or Final Four contenders for that matter. They do have a hard bracket end-up matchup with possibly Alabama, but I believe Creighton has the tools to keep up with Alabama and possibly make this Final Four run. Now, they would have Baylor as well, or Arizona. But I believe that Creighton is playing their best brand of basketball right now. Survived in a tough Big East conference, and their backcourt is just one of the best in the country. Another team that can possibly make a deep run, like, it's going to sound very biased because my family are big Michigan State fans as well. But Michigan State is one of the, like, they're such a weird team to pick. But if everything goes right, I can really see them making a Final Four run. They have the team to do it. They have the depth to do it. It's just which team shows up. This team has been so inconsistent all season that they were lost by 1 point to Gonzaga. They lost by 1 point to Purdue when they really should have won that game. Same with the Gonzaga game. Beat a ranked Kentucky team earlier in the season. Beat a ranked Indiana team. They beat a lot of tough teams in the Big Ten. But then there's also moments where they can lose to Rutgers. They lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship right as they were hitting form again. So it's just one of those, like, which team shows up for this tournament. Izzo being a great coach in March as he is, we really don't know. He's made the tournament 25 straight years. Anything can happen with Michigan State teams. I've seen crazier happen with Michigan State teams. I've seen 8, 9 seed Michigan State teams make it all the way to the Final Four. So it's just which team shows up. This tournament's going to be very, very fun to watch. I think I'm going to be streaming it over on my Twitch, just like a watch along of some of the first few games, if I can at least. But yeah. That's going to be it for this video. Comment your winners or possible upset picks down below. Subscribe. We are super, super close to 100. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. I just really want to hit that milestone. That's about it. See ya.